Greetings, warriors! We are back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2, the 1% Club, and your host is the Wolfman for today, at least. I need to go get a haircut today. My hair is growing crazy, and I got to, to trim it a little bit here, so I think we'll do a little bit of trimming on the beard, see if we can make it look a little better, and then get a little bit of a haircut shortened because my back hair is too long. And I don't like it too much when it gets too long. It's not cold enough yet to be able to do that. I think I'll probably keep the next one going for a while, but it's refreshing to know that I have this much hair, which I never thought I would have in all my years. So it's kind of neat, and we'll try to keep it going, but make it look a little more organized the next time. So, all right. Well, thank you for all the subscriptions. I think we're over 200 now, so we're getting closer and closer. I'm shooting for 500, and we're going to get there little by little. We've only been on since August, so we got some time, and we only have been on a short period of time. I'm just grateful for all you guys who are subscribers, commenting, and even if you agree or disagree, we had Lynn was disagreeing over the weekend. I think it's wonderful because I think we need to have discussions, and I think that by ignoring it or not kind of talking about it is not a good thing. And I think the society has changed a lot when it comes to roles and males and females. And I think that we have to kind of go back to looking at what's really the purpose of a lot of things that we're talking about. And so when we do that, we have to go back, in my mind, going back to the beliefs a person has and going back to what you really feel like is the standard foundation of how you live. Now, we have been doing a series on the 10 Commandments, and I'm going to not do a commandment right now in this one. I'll do it probably in the next one. But in this one, I'm going to focus on something that I saw that was interesting. I saw a movie called The Unholy, and that was my daughter had rented it, and so we actually watched it last night. It was very fascinating. So we're going to talk about this a little bit and also kind of look at the idea that when things happen well and God performs miracles, the devil is not too far behind. And that's what the whole idea of this movie was. And so let's kind of talk about this a little bit. And when miracles happen and you pray and you get things completed and things happen, this is the time where you have to be careful. Now, it's the same thing as like in a war situation. So the generals have always said, and I've seen this, historically, that the worst time to lower your ground or kind of lower your emphasis or whatever you want to call it is after you win the war, because that's the time you're most vulnerable. And this is what happens a lot when things go well and we start to celebrate. This is when temptation can get the best of us, and we're going to turn this into a discussion about obviously retention, temptation, all those type of things. But this interesting movie, the premise of this movie, and I won't tell you the whole thing, but the premise of the movie is that a bunch of people in a town led by this girl, they start believing in the Hail Mary as being real and something that is talking with them through a tree. And when you look at this whole thing, they believe that, and miracles are happening, but at the end, it's not really, the tree is not really Mary. The tree is a satanic type being that really wants the souls and the bodies of people to commit to them and to give up their lives for these temptations and Satan. And guys, and even though this is a movie, it's a great concept, because this kind of talks about this whole idea that we need to always be on guard, and especially when it comes to successes. I'm at 540 some days, and I have to continue being on guard, because you never know, if you let your guard down, all of a sudden Satan appears and you're tempted. Now, it doesn't have to be just the sexual part of things, right? I mean, I've been having trouble a little bit lately on profanity, taking the Lord's name in vain, and I have to be careful of that. I've had problems with other types of temptations, sweets, and other things. And though They may or may not be total commandments. You are losing control and being tempted by evil forces you know are not good. Now, the question becomes, how do these people know in this movie, and how do we know whether the voice we're listening to inside of us is the devil or God? And that's a very valid question in my mind, because we all kind of struggle with that whole idea. But it really comes down to your relationship with your Lord and really understanding what your Lord is saying and how your Lord wants to live. And this is kind of the key to a lot of this type of behavior. If you're living a life that you're trying to be celibate, or you're trying to practice brahmacharya or semen retention, you are going to also live other aspects of your life because you know that you're getting close to God. God is talking to you in a lot of different ways when you're doing this. And you also know that there is a book, a guideline that you can use. Not only the Bible, whatever religion that you believe in has that type of book, but it also basically has commandments. And I use the 10 Commandments, but there's other books that also have other types of rules and things that really, if you think about it logically, make a lot of sense, right? And so if you know that's the case, from a logical standpoint, you know that these things really are very practical. And I've always said the Bible is one of the most practical books around. We went over the first commandment, thou shalt not have any gods before me, right? We're going to talk about not taking the Lord's name in vain, and honor thy mother and father, and thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not... All these type of things, right, are practical things we based our laws on in many countries. And we base them into it because they're not only very spiritual type laws, but they're always very practical. And so then, if the evil forces are on you, if you're moving away from this. And a lot of times you won't know this until you're caught in there, and all of a sudden now you have to kind of decide, well, what the heck? How do I break out of this? For instance, if I caught myself using the Lord's name in vain a few times, I have to kind of realize I'm breaking this. Now, how do you do that? Well, you try to do the best you can in getting into the Word of God every day. Like I read my Bible every morning. You try to pray at night. You try to think about what you've been doing, and is this something that the Lord would approve of you to do? You have to kind of stay within talking to the Lord. If you're not, well, then you're focusing on listening to all kinds of other types of voices and temptations. In this case, the woman who was kind of the conduit for all this, she was basically not listening to the Lord until the end, when all of a sudden the Mary threatened her, and then she realized that couldn't be Mary. All right? And temptation is a very good thing. It may look very good to you. All that glitters is not gold, my friends. It may look good to you, but it's not good for you. And I think I did a video on this a long time ago, right? Something that may deceive you is what we see in our society now. All the fake news, corrupt people that we have around us, all the people who are just interested in making us, the lowest level people, in the economy and health and all kinds of stuff. Those people really are those representations. Now, I'm not saying that those people are evil themselves. I don't believe that. I think each one of us has a lot of good in them. I think we're all very positive people. I do think you can be taken over by evil spirits, and I think that happens to people. And they get taken over, and all of a sudden they act in a way that is not godly. And you see this all the time in our society. But they're always trying to deceive you because they want to take your money or your health or whatever might be your time. And so they're trying to give you the point of saying, okay, this looks good and this is good for you, but it's really not good for you. And I think a lot of times we don't think of the Bible or any type of these religious texts as being very practical because it was so long ago. Well, again, the story of life, human nature has not changed. People are people. And that's the key thing to remember. I don't care if it was how many thousands of years ago Babylon was around, or Sodom and Gomorrah, or the Roman Empire. These things all took place. They continue to take place. And that, to me, is the key to what you're looking at. So I thought this movie, The Unholy, was a very interesting movie because they talked about how the devil can confuse people and make it look good. It's almost like the story of Adam and Eve. Right? The apple looked good, and Eve was deceived and gave it to Adam, who was deceived. And all of a sudden, they both were deceived. And this is the kind of thing that you have to be strong with. I had a friend I was talking to yesterday. He's going through a hard time because of, fighting against this whole crazy thing that's going on in our society, right? And I'm fighting against it too. I understand it. And sometimes, you lose money, you lose different things because of this type of thing. But you have to continue being strong and believe in the beliefs you have, because those are the things that are going to keep you going and keep you having hope. A lot of people lose hope very easily. And when they lose hope, they fall back into temptation, believing, oh, well, I'll just be like everybody else. And the assumption is that everybody else is doing well. But they're not. They're fighting their own battles in their own ways. And so whether you're rich or not, this is what I always say, it's very hard for a rich person to get to heaven. Like a needle through a haystack, right? Because the bottom line, guys, is the fact that you're not thinking about God when you're rich. Most people. They're not thinking about giving to people or giving away things or that kind of stuff. They're thinking more in terms of how much more that I can make for myself. And that's the whole kind of key to the situation. So it's very difficult for them to make heaven. And so when you look at these situations, everybody has their issues. Everybody has their problems they're dealing with. And because of that, when we sit there and look at these situations, never be envious, and that's another commandment, actually. Never be envious. Never be somebody who is, jealous, envious of other people, because you don't know what they're going through. Everybody is going through difficult times, especially if they have a lot of faith. Right now, we're all being tested. We're being tested because the idea that everything was good was just a false illusion. And now we're seeing the actuality of what really is happening in many of our parts of our life, and people are astonished, and they are just shook up. And you're going to see a lot of people, in my opinion, over the next few months, basically, have nervous breakdowns. They're going to be depressed, and they're going to try to take pills and all that kinds of stuff. And I think for those of us who are strong, we have to be there to kind of explain things to people. We have to be there to be able to support people, even though we've been getting beat up for many different ways over the last number of years here and number of months with this, because we're doing things that go against the desired norm of the evil people. And now that we know they're evil, it's a different ball game. So this movie was great because once again it kind of displayed what's been happening in our society. People following what they thought was Mary and all the great things, and giving a little bit miracle here and there to show how great the person is, right? I think in this movie they healed a person that couldn't walk and got rid of a person's emphysema. All those things was delivered, but it was delivered in an illusion, all right? So that people end up then buying into it, hook and sinker, hook and sinker, and so now they're caught on the hook, and they're never going to stop because they think that this is always going to happen. And I think it's important to recognize that is not what happened. In this case, they were fooled, and all of a sudden, it was actually the devil in disguise. And we have to be careful of that. And that's why it's always be careful to, no matter what happens in your life, to always continue to build that faith. Sometimes I'm glad that I am not super rich, wealthy, because then I have to keep working every day, and I have to keep praying and keep believing in God, and I'm not losing that. So in that sense, and especially with retention, guys, let's talk about retention. I'll go a little bit longer on this one, but when we talk about retention, guys, there's your ultimate temptation. the sexual nature of people, because it's so wound up. I was noticing even with these species of dogs, my dog next door, male dog, chasing after my female dog and going crazy. He wouldn't stop. He had so much energy in him. It was amazing. And so that shows you that all species, especially the males in species, have unbelievable energy. But until we learn how to use that, and we're not thinking about just, trying to go after every female we meet, and obviously procreation is a different story, but going after every female you meet, all of a sudden, and every picture you're looking at, now you're wasting a lot of your energy. Okay. And I talked to a friend the other day who's been going through this, and so he understands that. He sees that. I think people sense that. Whenever they start doing a lot of that stuff, they sense it. Now, when you're younger, you have a lot more energy because testosterone is much higher. And so you don't feel it as much. But until you get older, now you recognize that every last drop of that, unless you're going to have a child, is valuable. And you don't want to lose that. All right, guys, I know we're taking a little longer on this one, but I wanted to kind of address this. So if you do get a chance to see this movie, it's very interesting how people get deceived in life because they want to believe so badly in something. In this case, was an inanimate object like a tree. And it was actually thought it was Mary, and it was actually the devil. And so that's why we go back and saying the first commandment again, thou shalt not have any gods or idols before me. And that's what's happened in this situation. The idol was not Mary, but it was a stricken tree. And this tree became a devil. So, all right, guys, you guys have a great day, and battle on.